Great. It's not even going to go live. Fuck. Or maybe I am live, but I don't know it yet. Maybe I was live because it does say 12 seconds. Hey, YouTube, let's do this.
Back to nature, climbing higher. Woods are thick, hiking alone. Hear a tree crack, loud as gunfire. Stops you cold, chill to the bone. Hear the crowding, turn to howling. Something's prowling, just out of sight. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. The forest has fallen silent. The mountains dark. The moon is full. Catch the black shape of a giant, 8 feet tall, unbelievable. Your heart is pounding, huge steps are bounding. Your hope is drowning in the fading light. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. Oh hell yeah. Run for your life. Step it up. Your fear is growing, red eyes are glowing. You might die knowing those folks were right. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. Beast in the
And hey, everybody, welcome to Squash Talk. I'm Pat. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm just going to keep hitting my glasses on the microphone. It's what I do. The setup is not ideal. I don't have a professional setup like Ben. Ben has this fucking professional setup. My Wi-Fi is low. I might get kicked out of my own show tonight. And it might turn into the Ben Radford show for a minute or two or 10. But I have been in a very tight window. He has graciously agreed to come on tonight, sort of in between his windows.
Hey there.
And so let's just bring him right in, man. Let's jump right into the discussion. Ben, thanks for being here tonight. I really appreciate you kind of squeezing me into your schedule because this was very on the fly, impromptu on my end, and you graciously accepted. Thanks for doing that.
Sure. Always happy to talk to you. I got a meeting in about an hour, but happy to chat until then.
Mm-hmm. Well, here we are. So, I don't know. What do you want to talk about, man?
Well, there's
Huh?
cryptozoology. There's there's a show called Squatch Talk. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever you want to dig in.
Let's talk about Eastern ideologies from 1500 years ago.
All right.
And go.
All right. Well, one of the basic ideologies you often see, particularly in Asian cultures, is more communalism. Certainly, that's in contrast with more, for example, American worldviews, which tend to be more individualistic. And this is why, for example, even reflected in the language they used, the ideas, the politics, they're much more communal. So it's more a sense of we can do this, we can pull this together. Whereas there's the rugged individualism of the West. And generally, of course, coming from the West, that's we it's like they say with a fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you grow up in it, you don't see it. And it's one of those things where we can sort of idealize the rugged individualist, but then the problem comes in when, of course, there's also collectivism, and that's when you get into like strong leaders, right? And so this is why, for example, in communist China, the dynasties, for example, in Japan and China, you have this sort of collectivist notion, and because it's all sort of they're all for one for all, they tend to be more susceptible to strong leaders, whereas Americans and those in the West tend to be sort of more looking at the go-getters.
Wow.
We can also talk about Confucianism and some of the.
No.
Okay, all right.
That was okay. That was impressive. That was impressive. I am actually impressed.
I know a little bit about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. So for the audience, this is not a bit. This was not planned out. Like me and Ben came into the show and we're coming into this 100% cold. That was not a bit, but that was actually impressive, man.
Well, it's just off the top of my head. I mean, if you're contrasting, ancient, and again, we can get into Confucianism. We can look at some of the East Asian.
Oh no.
But I'm guessing you want
to talk Bigfoot.
Okay, all right, we're gonna do a Bigfoot.
Yeah, man. Right? I got you here
I'm pivoting for you, man.
I have you here for another 50 minutes or so. So yeah,
46 minutes. I got my timer because I got to be on.
All right, fair enough. But I do appreciate you being here, and that was impressive. How I literally just slung that at you off the top of my head, and you actually answered the question.
Well, I answered it kind of, but anyway, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, Abominable Snowman. What are we digging into tonight?
I mean, not Yeti, not abominable, snowman stuff. But
okay.
Yeah.
Just focus on the classic North American Bigfoot. All right, we can do that.
Yeah, basically. Because I don't really know where to go with it outside that. Honestly.
No, fair enough.
My audience is pretty much North American people. Bigfooters, if you will.
Squatchers. Do you like the term squatcher, or do you think it's kind of
I call them Bigfooters.
Okay.
That's what I call them. So like that's the terminology I've come up with. And I don't mean it in any kind of like negative
sense,
yeah.
I mean I'm always, whatever people want to call themselves is fine with me. I think you mean the let's go squatching always sounds really sort of amateurish, or just sort of like, I don't know quite what the word is, but just like it's like just go look for Bigfoot, dude. It's like more power to you. I'll help you out in any way that I can. And of course, you and I have talked on previous shows about some of the different methodologies that we might use. You know, ranging from drones to cameras and trackers and so on.
Yeah, but kind of funny. There's no methodology that's working. It's the biggest methodology seems to be anecdote.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's one of the things that that's certainly not unique to Bigfoot. I mean, you see this in a lot of the so-called paranormal ages where aspects where that's, and again, you and I have talked about this before. I mean, there's a very stark lack of unified methodologies, right? And so it's the same. You see the same thing, not just your topic, but you see the same thing with ghost hunters, for example, where you've got you don't have universal definition of what ghosts are, or Bigfoot for that matter,
or flat Earth, dude.
or flat Earth, right? Take your pick, right? And so the problem, of course, is that there are in fact different ways to investigate the world. There actually are in fact empirical, science-based ways to find out whether things are real or not, whether animals exist or not. So the problem is not that science can't figure out a way to find Bigfoot. That's not the problem. The problem is that the methods that many of these big, not, I don't want to, I don't want to cast a big blanket, but you and I both know that a good chunk of the Bigfoot researchers, they're doing this half-assed, half-baked investigations. I use the word investigation very, very loosely. And so that's my problem. And again, you and I have talked about this. It's like, I don't make fun of people who look for Bigfoot because I've done it and you've done it. My problem, my issue is that they're not doing it right. They're not actually making their effort.
Just to be clear, Ben, I've actually never looked for Bigfoot.
I thought you had.
No.
All right.
I have never ever once gone out in the woods going, I'm gonna go look for Bigfoot. I go out in the woods to have fun, man.
Well, so do Bigfooters.
And I don't want a damn Bigfoot coming around my camp any more than I want a coyote or a bear.
Well, but here's the thing, right? Is a Bigfoot comes around your place, then if you can, that's a perfect opportunity to capture evidence, right? You got tracks, you got scat, you got you name it, right? So, it's the same thing with any of this weird thing, lake monsters, ghosts, Bigfoot. I want to be there when these things come up, man. So go for it. I'd love to see one.
I know, right? Because, I mean, my thinking of late has been that would be the most amazing biological discovery in centuries.
Yeah.
Of modern day humans discovering a biological species. I mean, tell me what would be more amazing than an upright walking primate that is that big?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'd be terrifying. Of course, depending on what they do. And as you know, some people think of Bigfoot as these sort of, these scary monstery figures. Many people, as you know, think of Bigfoot as these beautiful, peaceful, nature, spirit, animal type things. And every now and then, of course, you get somebody like Beckyard who thinks that they're, interdimensional aliens and whatnot. So
yeah, of course. I mean, the woo world.
Right.
But,
Well, right. But the problem that I see is that I don't see. I mean, yeah, they are in the fringe of Bigfoot, but I don't see any systemic efforts to draw a clear line between valid and invalid evidence. It's all just sort of throwing shit against the wall and see what sticks, and that's not a good way to pursue anything, especially Bigfoot.
100% agree. Despite my thumbnail. That I did, I did a little, I didn't do clickbait, but somebody could argue, man, you kind of clickbaited this. Because I think, as you know, Ben, I think as you've seen, that my position has changed quite a bit with the Bigfoot phenomena. Because, I mean, I've always been a skeptic swimming the waters pretty deep. And I'll say this, I've swam the waters pretty deep, but that I've come to a realization, and that it is, to me, Ben, almost the entire Bigfoot phenomena online in the community is almost entirely narrative driven.
I would agree with that.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know what to do with that, man, because the narrative people, they don't really want to talk about that. So I'm in a weird position, man,
Okay.
because I'm still in the waters.
Right. Well, here's one way to approach it, and so as you know, part of what I do is folklore. So in addition to my I've done field investigations, I've done lots of stuff, as you know, but part of my approach, as I mentioned, is a folkloric one, and this is because a lot of times when you're looking at these let's say contested creatures, whether it's Loch Ness monster, chupacabra, Mothman, Bigfoot, what have you, or even more broadly, contested entities. What are crop circles? What makes them ghosts, and so on. A lot of times, what you find is that because there isn't clear evidence of these, right? If everybody knew for a fact that ghosts existed or Bigfoot existed, there'd be no debate. We'd be all like, "Hey, let's go to the zoo and see a Bigfoot," right? And so
It'd be a fucking squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. And so exactly for the reason that you just talked about, a lot of times, as you mentioned, a lot of what passes for investigation evidence is narrative driven, as you said. And so you have basically what are anecdotes and stories. And you and I have both had this discussion both between ourselves and with other people, where they're like, well, I know for a fact Bigfoot exists because I saw one. Okay, well, you may have seen a Bigfoot. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't prove you didn't. But my question is always, how do you know? How is it that you are so absolutely certain? You just know in the capital T truth that the only thing that you could have seen is a Bigfoot instead of something else. And because so much of Bigfoot and ghost lore and so on is narrative driven, then you can look at these things from a folkloric perspective, right? You can look at the different stories. You can look at some of the narrative themes and try to parse it out that way.
Well, here's the thing. So, here's my conflict, then, is that I came into the Bigfoot subject curious.
Sure.
Why, it was a very fascinating question to me. It was a very fascinating possibility, or what have you, right? Like, why are people saying that they're seeing 8-foot tall monkey man in the woods? That's always been sort of my way of framing it.
Sure.
And monkeys have tails. Like, I get that. But you know what? Everybody knows what I mean.
Unless they're part lizard and their lizard tail broke off.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the interesting thing, is that nobody ever says they see a purple Bigfoot. Nobody ever sees they say a purple Bigfoot with sprouted wings and flew away. So the narrative is it's tightly controlled. It's pretty consistent, I'll say.
Well, some of the descriptions are, but again, keep in mind that when you look at the steps involved from sighting to identification, right? So somebody sees something that they can't identify in the woods or in the dark in the woods, or take your pick, right? And so
yeah, the dark thing. See, that doesn't count to me anymore.
Well, no, but
a dark shadowy figure is nothing more than that.
Well,
you didn't see shit.
Sure, right, but so this is why in my investigations, again, more broadly, what I find is that it's the most useful perspective is when you recognize that Bigfoot, it's not an explanation for anything. It's not saying something is a Bigfoot doesn't explain anything, because we don't know what Bigfoot is. So the most,
I mean, it's a colloquial word.
No, but where I'm going with this is that it is a label for a generally agreed upon experience, right? And so if you see something weird in the sky, you don't know what it is, it's a UFO. if you see something weird in the woods, you don't know what it is, it's a Bigfoot, or depending on where you are, something, Mothman, what have you. It's the same thing like on a lake, right? If you see something weird, you don't know what it is, you attach the label, the experiential label, as a lake monster. And so once you recognize that Bigfoot isn't a explanation, it's not a description, it's a label for what we all collectively say is Bigfoot, or sort of a catch-all category. And once you approach it from that perspective, then the question becomes, okay, well, what could have explained this sighting? Could it have been something else? I'm not saying it was or wasn't, but once you say, okay, you saw, you didn't see a Bigfoot, you may have seen something that you label as a Bigfoot, and it may in fact be a Bigfoot, I don't know. But then the question is it possible that you saw something else that might have been mistaken for a Bigfoot? And in many cases, the answer is yes.
No doubt. And so that brings me back to sort of where I've fallen in this whole thing, So Ben, you've been around the block. You've been a professional skeptic. Like, you actually have a skeptic career. I'm just some guy.
Well, you're more than just some guy. You're not some random guy. I'll give you that.
I mean, well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Especially
after like a few of the jokes I've like cut at you recently, but some guy, right? I am actually just some guy. I have a small YouTube channel. Like, I don't have the kind of reach. Whatever. Look, here's the point. I came into the Bigfoot world with curiosity and wanting to understand more about the phenomena. And then I hit a point about 6, 7, 8 months ago, really 6 months ago, like a hard point. Oh my God, it's all narrative driven. And the narrative is bullshit. And it is echo chamber driven narrative.
Right.
And echo chambers aren't good. There is no good echo chamber. Even if you're like, I love everybody, everyone is wonderful. Like you jump into that echo chamber, you're gonna find some weird shit going on, right? You know what I mean? Like, echo chambers aren't good.
Well, and that's one of the things that I've often seen is, and that's, I used to post on the website Cryptomundo, which of course you're familiar with. And I did that years and years ago. And what I found was that I was one of 3 sort of avowed skeptics. I mean, I'm not saying that there weren't other skeptics, but I was one of the most prominent ones, and which is fine. But what I found was that I kept getting piled on, right? It's like somebody posted something, Craig Woolheater or Lauren Coleman or somebody else, or Matt Moneymaker, take your pick. And they would post something about Bigfoot or something about cryptozoology. And I wasn't trolling. I wasn't calling anybody names. I wasn't being an asshole. I was saying, well, have you considered this? What about this? And every now and then we'd actually get into meaningful discussions, sort of like you and I have had. But over and over again, I'm just getting people like, oh, what's wrong with you? Get out of here, skeptic. And it just got to be this thing where I don't need this. Like, I'm trying to work with you guys to understand and solve this mystery. I'm trying to figure this out. And I don't need to be, made fun of and trolled and snark. I'm trying to, and I was treating other people respectfully as I typically do. So yeah, and that sort of reinforced to me just what an echo chamber it was. I will say that to his credit, Jeff Meldrum did invite me, and I think you and I talked about this. Jeff did invite me to speak at a Bigfoot conference in Pocatello, Idaho, about, I guess, maybe 12 years ago or so. And he knew where I was coming from, and I like Jeff as a person. And again, to his credit, he had me up there, and I actually had a good time. I enjoyed meeting him, and I was treated reasonably well there. I mean, I was obviously the sort of token skeptic, But we had good conversations, we had good discussions, and what I told them, I remember this very clearly on stage. I was like, okay, well, I said, I know that a lot of you think that I'm the enemy. I said, I'm not the enemy here. What I told them, I said, I'm addressing a room full of probably 70 or 100 Bigfoot buffs. I said, if you bring me your Bigfoot evidence, I will listen to you. I will look at your photographs. I will listen to your. I will take you seriously. I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm not going to mock you. I said, but you go on. You talk about go on the random street, just walk down the street and talk about Bigfoot. They're going to think you're crazy. They're going to make fun of you. So I said, I'm not the enemy here. So if you're thinking that because I'm coming from a skeptical point of view that I am mean or trying to hurt your feelings or trying secretly hoping to think that Bigfoot isn't real, that's bullshit. I would love to find Bigfoot, but I need good evidence.
Wow, God, there's 20 directions I could go in with that. My mind is racing, but I'm just going to fall back on the question I pulled up from Mary Wilson. What would valid evidence?
Sure. Well, I mean, unfortunately, it's pretty much anything but what we have now, right? So the bulk of the evidence, and I think most people would agree with me, the bulk of the evidence, as you just said, is narrative, right? It's stories, it's anecdotes, it's eyewitness sightings, things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's all well and good. The problem is that it's nothing that is empirical, right? And so what we would need for good evidence, and you and I have talked about this, right, is teeth, bones, DNA, things like that. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, nobody's found any. Now, of course, you have Melba Ketchum and her huge fiasco there. I mean,
of course.
You have all these cases, right? And so
it's not even worth considering.
We don't even need to go there.
Self-published, blah blah blah.
Oh,
the whole religious Nephilim aspect.
So weird, right? And this
yeah.
is another problem, right? You have all these sort of self-appointed experts in the Bigfoot community, and half times when you sort of go below the surface, they're out there, man. It's like some of them are hoaxers, just outright hoaxers, faking stuff left and right. We don't need to go into this. We all know the dozen or so worst of the lot. But then you also have other people who are sincere, but they don't have the balls, they don't have the integrity that you do, frankly, and Steve Culls does, and a few other people do, to call the bullshit and say, look, guys, all this hoaxing, all this hype, it's not helping. It's like you're making some money, you're doing your pay-per-view, you're scamming people, whatever else. It's doing nothing but muddying the waters in the pursuit to try actually find Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the narrative is the bigger part.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of gotten to the point, honestly, Ben. I mean, I understand this could be important, and like this kind of thing might be right up your alley, where it's like I exposed a hoaxer, To me, man, it's like I don't care about the one stupid idiot who's being a hoaxer. It's the narrative is false. That's what I've discovered.
Right.
After my time and fucking energy swimming these waters, not making a dime, everything I do, even right here and now, is sweat equity. This is my time. I don't get just like you. Like I'm not paying you to be here. I'm not fucking getting paid to be here either, dude. I don't make shit off.
No, and it's the same thing with skeptics. I mean, this is the strange part. I've had this discussion with Bigfoot believers. I'm like, what do you think my end game is? Like, seriously, why? It
should be the truth.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Okay, you're convinced that not you, but I had this discussion. It's like, why do you think I'm putting in forth the time and the effort? I'm writing articles and all these sorts of things and blogs and doing TV stuff. It's like, why do you think that is? Do you think it's because I'm personally, I have deep fears that Bigfoot exists? I don't care. I don't lay awake at night hoping that Bigfoot doesn't exist. Give me a break. It's like, no, it's like the reason I do this is not because of the money, because I work for a nonprofit educational organization. I don't make any money. I'm not, I don't do it for the fame. I do it because I'm interested in the topic. I care about the subject. I care about Bigfoot if it's real. Same with ghosts or these other weird things. But it's not a personal investment for me, right? So whereas for a lot of the people who have the narrative, to go back to your point, right? If part of your identity is the person that saw Bigfoot or the experiencer or the person who took the famous photo or whatever it is, if that's part of who you are and how you present yourself, then you have a vested interest in perpetuating that. You have a vested interest in maintaining the whole Bigfoot thing. Whereas I don't care the way. I just want the truth.
Me too.
Why we're on the same page.
And
that's so true.
I mean, the truth matters. And it's so hard to get Bigfooters to say that the truth matters, because they always will fall into the narrative. But what are you saying? Like, oh, they didn't hear whoops? Like, yeah, they didn't hear whoops. They heard a fucking barred owl. A barred owl.
Right. Or the thing I'll get is like, oh, you're saying that eyewitnesses are never right. No, I never said that. That's they come up with these straw man arguments, these straw man arguments.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's like, look, no one is saying that eyewitnesses are never right. That's bullshit. What I'm saying is that under the conditions under which most people see Bigfoot, which is not 5 feet away in bright sunlight in a rural in an urban area, the conditions upon which most people see these, as you know, are less than ideal. It's dark at a distance in the woods and this and that. And again, that doesn't mean that it's possible that Bigfoot exists, which is why you have to have corroborating evidence. So sort of to get back to the previous question, one of the biggest things for me, and there's lots of ones, and of course we could talk about this for hours, but the lack of the body.
Exactly.
Where is the body? And so, again, you and I have talked about this, but I'll quickly go through it, right? It's like, keep in mind, it's not where is the body, because there's not just one Bigfoot. As you know, there'd have to be a breeding population between 6,000 and 10,000, maybe 12,000 in North America. So the question isn't, why aren't we finding thousands of dead Bigfoot? Or why are we only finding a dozen? Why aren't we finding any? Surely.
Well, let's have that discussion real quick. Let's talk population, because like this is going to lead into like better, even bigger discussions, more important. So, like you just threw numbers out like 6,000, 12,000, maybe 20,000. So if that's spread out all over North America,
okay.
Number one, what are the odds that any fucking human being would ever run into them get so incredibly low? Number two,
right.
Number two, what are the odds that a Bigfooter, which there are hundreds of people going,
right.
Then what are the fucking odds that they would ever plop down next to a Bigfoot on their Bigfoot camp out weekend? And then and then you look at the vastness of like when you talk about North America and what some of that like extreme distances and fastnesses. So if you're, let's just say 20,000, Ben.
Okay.
Like, and that's as high as you just went.
Yeah.
Right.
We can go down to
50,000.
Let's say 10,000.
There's
conservative.
Obviously, there's not millions. Otherwise, they are from Planet Hairtron, or they belong in a zoo. Like, if there's millions of them, right?
Right.
We can both agree on that.
Okay. So all right. Well, all right. Let me answer
that's where I'm at with the narrative.
Right.
The narrative says Bigfoot is everywhere all the time. Every time I go out in the woods, I hear whoops, I hear knocks, I get foot stomps, I get rocks thrown at me.
Right.
and all these experience. It's not even about encounters anymore, dude. Like, say what you will with the encounters. We could talk about that separately. It's experiences.
Yeah, and it's narratives,
And
yeah, experiences, anecdotes.
and I'm like, how many I mean, how many fucking Bigfoot are there that every time you put together your little expedition, you just happen to plop down within an eighth of a mile of a Bigfoot? How is that fucking possible, Ben?
Well, if
You
you if
tell
you're
me. You
if
see
you're
this debate, I'm flipping the script. You
right, sure.
tell
Well,
me.
yeah. So here's how this works. So let's say that you had how do I phrase this? Loose ethics. And let's say that you were charging people a couple $100,000, $200, couple $1,000, whatever, to go on a Bigfoot expedition with you. So they're like, "Hey, you're a fan. I've seen you on TV. Let's do this, right?" So you pay someone $800, $1,000, or a long weekend. You're out hooping and hollering. You go to a campsite. You're like, "Don't leave the campsite, but because I've heard Bigfoot around here. But if you listen carefully, and all of a sudden, 2 a.m, you're hearing something weird, hearing some knocks. Who knows, right?" But the other script, the other answer to the question is a couple things. Number one, of course, as you pointed out, Bigfoot are seen in populated areas by definition, right? That's when you talk about a Bigfoot sighting, that means that somebody was there. That means that wherever the Bigfoot was, there was a human nearby, and maybe many humans. In fact, there could have been more humans that were there, minutes or hours or days later. So Bigfoot are seen in populated areas across the United States. Pennsylvania, California, take your pick. The second thing to keep in mind, of course, is that you don't need to be Bigfoot to see these things, right? So the question isn't, other than the Bigfooters who are, maybe making some money or getting something out of it. The fact is that anybody who's out in the woods, a hiker, a logger, a surveyor, a linesman, a ranger. I mean, there's any number of people who are out in the woods at any given time, campers, take your pick, who it's not like someone's gonna say, well, I saw a Bigfoot body, or I saw a Bigfoot, but because I'm not a Bigfoot, I didn't mention it. It's like, no, anybody, literally any human who's in the woods is going to say, what was Bigfoot here? And then the other thing about the population, right? So you bring up a good point, right? So let's say there's 10,000 Bigfoot. Again, we're talking a breeding population. So in biology, a species has to have enough to keep them mating, right? Here's the thing.
And we have to recognize, Ben, like, you also have to recognize where people say Bigfoot are. And that literally goes from Florida to Washington State to upstate New York and Alaska
And everywhere
and
in between.
northern Canada. So and the Comanches and like all the LBL, everything in between, man.
Right.
Right.
So
you said what? 10,000 or 20?
let's just say 10,000.
Okay, so 10,000 spread. Literally, that, I mean, it encompasses all of North America. Take out the major cities, right?
Presumably,
Okay,
yes.
so continue your point based on that.
Okay. So here's the thing about that number. So that number is derived from what is needed to sustain a breeding population. In other words, live animals, enough for genetic spread, to not have harmful inbreeding. What that number doesn't include is dead ones, right? So if like a human, right? If a person dies, let's just take the subject away from Bigfoot for a second and just talk about humans, right? So people die all the time. But here's the thing, right? So why don't we see dead bodies in the streets, except for, of course, right after a homicide or accident? It's because they die in hospitals, they die in homes, they die in controlled conditions. But if we're talking about Bigfoot don't die in hospitals. Bigfoot don't die in controlled conditions. Bigfoot, if they exist, would die, and just presumably drop where they are. Maybe near a highway, near a stream, near a hike, wherever else. And this is when you get in. This is when I often hear the whole, well, Bigfoot bury their dead. Do they now? I didn't know that. How do you know that? Well, That's
How
their.
do you have knowledge?
I have not, right. So this is, but again, I not to put too fine a point on it here, but this is part of the issue, right? So even though we're only talking
An
10,000
excuse.
living ones, is that keep in mind that that's over time, right? And so think about how long it takes for a human body to decompose, right? People still find murder victims 10, 15, 20 years later. They still find skeletons, right? So keep in mind that even if there was only 10,000 live Bigfoot in North America, if you include the ones that would have had to come before them, there would have to be 20, 30, 40,000 bodies. Again, unless they magically vanish or they're buried or take your pick.
So, okay, so the dead Bigfoot thing, that's something I can scientifically get on board with. Like, yeah, with the fact that wet forested areas, which is where they are predominantly said to be, do tend to mask, um, mask remains pretty quick.
In some cases, sure.
You know?
But keep in mind, I mean, there's
that's
Bigfoot
not, I'm
reports
not
here in
being
New Mexico. I mean, I live in
I'm
New
not
Mexico
being
in the desert, right? So I guarantee you, there's a Bigfoot drop
So
dead
that's
anywhere in New
different. That's
Mexico.
way different. You're
Right.
talking about millions of years of preservation that's possibly there, right?
There you go, right? And so
yeah,
I mean,
high desert. Yeah.
right. The fact is that we don't know, and then again, you also have them like, oh, what about bare bones? Bare bones are found. They actually are. There's photographs of them. Is it common? No, but it's not like these things aren't found. So again, this is
true. True, but if you put a 1 to 100 ratio on bare bones, then you kind of start actually getting into real math of why we don't find Bigfoot remains. And I'm not just saying, I'm just saying,
Right. Well,
there's about 600,000 black bears in North America. So if you put a 1 to 100 ratio on that, then actually you're saying there's 60,000 Bigfoot. And so how often,
Bigfoot, I mean, so again, it's a case of where, first of all, there's no reliable cataloging of barebone finds. Hunters, hikers, park rangers, there's no database that actually tracks how often they're found. It's all anecdotes.
True. Yeah, you're right about that.
Absolutely. So I mean, it's easy to say, well, people almost never find bare bones. How do you know? What are you just pulling that out of your ass, or did you consult the National Forest Service's bare bones registry?
But it probably is rare.
I'm not
relatively rare.
But my point is that if you're going to, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it one way. You can say, well,
I agree.
Right. So there you go. Point made.
But so I mean, like I'm again, Ben, like I'm a little bit more focused on let's say the live, the real, the live, alive.
Come inside.
Yeah, I mean, so again, to go back to the narrative, like, so what I discovered is, wow, Bigfooters, their narrative is Bigfoot is wherever the fuck they show up. And what is that? Like, it has to, I mean, either they're casting some kind of magical spell that they're really on some weird shit where they're casting some weird magical spell, or it's just complete delusion. That's completely fooling themselves.
Well, that's especially true of the repeaters, as you know. I mean, they're rare, but there are people, as you know. I can think of at least 3 or 4 people off the top of my head who they say they see Bigfoot regularly. Right? They come to their cabins. They say, "Oh yeah, I see."
I mean, those people are nuts.
Well,
I can both agree right now. Those people are. Janice Carter is fucking nuts.
Well, I wouldn't want to say that, but I'm not going to disagree with you.
I'll say it.
All
Yeah.
right, well, there you
Janice
go.
Carter is nuts.
Knucking futs.
So the people that say, oh, they're always around, like on the property or whatever. But here's the thing: what I'm getting at is that Bigfooters will plan a camp out to be together doing their Bigfoot stuff and talk Bigfoot and go put on their headlamps, go on a night investigation, and 3 months out. So it's April now. They planned it for June, July.
Right.
Guaranteed they're gonna come back and fucking start talking about the whoops and the knocks they fucking heard. So what is like?
Dude,
did they just happen to plop right down next to a Bigfoot, or what the fuck?
All right.
is that?
Here is where I'm going to bring back in the topic I brought up earlier, which is
Okay.
ghost hunters.
Okay.
You see exactly the same process in ghost hunters. I happen to know quite a bit about both these parallel topics, where it's exactly the same process, where you have ghost hunting groups who will go to a reputedly haunted location. Maybe it's a famous place like the Queen Mary, or the Overlook Hotel, take your pick, the Waverly Sanitarium, whatever else, or it's just some regional attraction. And so they do their whole thing and like, oh, we're going to go investigate ghosts, and they bring all this equipment. And I've seen this firsthand many times, right? So they go do the thing, they do the stakeout. And again, the parallels with Bigfoot research are unmistakable, right? It's often at night, which again is the worst time to look for an animal, unless it's nocturnal, and a lot of people see Bigfoot during the day, right? So you're setting yourself up to fail if you're like going. There's no logical reason why ghost hunters would look for ghosts in the dark, and there's no particular logical reason why Bigfoot researchers would go into the woods after dark, because it just increases the chances of a false positive, that you're going to hear or see something that you don't know what it is. And right. so they're setting themselves up for the circumstances under which they're going to get ambiguous knocks and sounds and whatever else. And like, oh my God, did you hear that? And because the bar is so low, then that's the reason that you're talking about. It's like the bar is so low. Did you hear something growl? Well, okay. Did you hear some thump? Did you hear something and so it's all this sort of super low level bullshit evidence, and it's just enough to get people excited, and they go on YouTube, and they write up their reports, and it's the same stuff over and over and over again, and nobody raises the bar to do good work, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, but I mean, is it fair for me to say, as somebody that lives in the Bigfoot waters at this point, is it fair for me to fucking say the narrative is bullshit for like everything you just laid out?
Well, I think I think how do I put this? I mean, I have more respect for somebody like you. I'm not saying this to blow smoke up your ass because you're already smoking. But I have more respect for somebody like you who's, again, you never came across as a hardcore believer. You were always sort of a reasonable skeptic. Same with like Steve Culls and other people, right? And I mean, I've seen this happen with you and other people where it's a case of where they start digging into it and they're realizing, hey, some of those skeptics, they kind of have a point or two, right? It's like, you don't need to believe me, you don't need to like me, you don't need to buy my books. Although if you buy my book, I'd appreciate it. It's a matter of like listening to
buy Ben's books,
buy my books. But no, but it's a case of where again, sort of like at some point, and I've seen this in a lot of cases with ghosts and other topics, where at some point somebody they stand back. It's typically they're in the middle of it. They're in the middle of it. They're surrounded by it. They're in the community. They're in the ghost hunting community. They're in the paranormal community. They're in the Bigfoot community. They're surrounded by. You were talking about this earlier. They're in a bubble. They're in an echo chamber. And so, in that context, every sound is maybe potential Bigfoot. Every twisted treetop is a sign. Whatever it is, right? So. And so it's when you're in that world, when you're in that echo chamber, and you're not listening to skeptics because you think they're mean or they're trying to, whatever they think I'm doing.
You're
then
so
you
mean.
that.
You're so mean, Ben.
You're so mean, right? When you step out of
Yeah.
that, you're like, hold on.
You're not mean.
This is
No.
not, this is not making sense. Like, well, where are the bodies? Well, like, no, that's, and so that's what I found is that it doesn't always happen, but it happens enough where people will. And again, I don't care. Like, if people want to consider themselves skeptical of Bigfoot or not, I don't care. I sleep fine at night either way. My goal is not to try and disprove Bigfoot. My goal is not to make sure people don't believe in Bigfoot. I couldn't care less. That's not my issue.
Yeah.
My issue is let's try and solve this mystery if we can. And part of the first step in solving the mystery is separating the bullshit from the good evidence.
There's no good evidence. That's what I say.
I
I
would not disagree with you that there's no good evidence, but again, the question becomes why? Why isn't there good evidence? Either because Bigfoot don't exist, which is possible, or the methods that are being used are not working. They're not working.
I've heard that before. I have a whole clip of you saying that, brother. Hey, I'm about to lose you.
Yeah, I got 3 or 4 minutes here. Then I gotta go.
I'll replace Kenny. Like, Kenny, if you want to come in, like, I'll switch this out.
Okay, all right,
man.
bring Kenny in here. All right.
Yeah,
I probably Kenny's. I as you know, I like Kenny. He's a colleague of mine. His bread and butter is more ghosts. I have more experience, if I may say so.
I know, but like you've already alluded to how the two
you're right.
The two things are so connected.
They really are. They really are.
I even brought up flat Earth, which we all know is like complete delusional thinking. And that's kind of my point, is when delusional thinking takes over and you can actually have a community like Flat Earth. And I watch fucking Beyond the Curve, and I'm sitting there going, I'm sitting here going, holy shit, this is the Bigfoot world. Like, that was a powerful moment in my life, dude.
You're right. Your analogies are correct. And I take no real pride in saying that. I don't.
Me neither.
It's not,
dude.
I'm not gleeful. I'm not happy that these communities are doing shitty work. I'm really not. I have friends of mine and colleagues and Bigfoot believers who, and you and I, both of them, right? They've spent years, decades, tens of thousands of dollars doing this. And I'm like, you might want to take a step back and, I mean, it's your life. You do what you want. But I mean, I've seen marriages destroyed. I've seen fortunes wasted. I've seen, and all, because they're so wrapped up in this. And I'm like, you do what you want. I'm not telling you what to do. But if I were you, I would take a step back and make sure that your assumptions about this topic and the validity of this research are worth your while.
Amen, brother. And with that, I'll let you go because I know you have to go in 1 minute. And Kenny, respectfully declined because he has something going on. That's cool. I'm
not paying attention to the chat, so if I'll take your word for it that he's there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he totally popped in.
Okay. Hey, Kenny.
So before you go, man, I'll just leave it at this: is that I find more of a reasonable, like, I'm looking for a reasonable discussion, and I find that I can't have that in the Bigfoot world because they're more worried about protecting the narrative because it's for entertainment purposes only.
Same thing with the Bigfoot world. Same thing with the ghost world. I mean, it's just and that's actually, I talk about this. I mean, that's actually one of the things I'm genuinely sad about. I enjoy discussion. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy discussions and debates among like-minded people who are trying to solve this. Like I get frustrated, as do you, when you're dealing with people who they don't want to listen to you. They're just sure they saw a Bigfoot and nothing's going to change their mind. And I'm like, it's just so frustrating because we should all be on the same page. We should all be working together to say, this is bullshit. This is a hoax. This might be something here. But instead, typically as a skeptic, I get the last 20 seconds in an hour-long TV show. I get the I get
Yeah, hey.
shit on, and I get
Oh,
mocked.
it's all bullshit. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
the
and it's
bad
like,
guy. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I'm trying to I
Yeah.
don't I'm trying to help out. So it's
So
like,
am I.
I know you
And
are, and I appreciate that, but it's just frustrating that that's the position a lot of skeptics are, and Kenny's the same way.
yeah.
We don't see ourselves, and we're not trying to be mean or negative or we don't make it our life's mission to make sure people don't believe in ghosts. I don't care. Bigfoot, ghost, believe whatever you want, but do yourself a favor and learn some critical thinking and approach these scientifically and
No
empirically.
shit. And you know what? And maybe at the end of the day, there's a percentage of unexplained there. And I think that we could all of us, you, me, Kenny, Matt Crowley,
Yeah,
and even those that came before us, we could all look at something and go, you know what? That's just unexplained.
could be. Yeah,
And if it's unexplained, guess what? That's all it is.
right. It doesn't mean
you don't get to fill it with whatever your imagination says.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So I'm comfortable with the unexplained. I mean, dark matter, we don't understand dark matter, but we know it's there. But we
Again,
can't
there's lots of things.
we can't quantify it,
Human consciousness. We know the broad outlines. We know it's not paranormal, but how exactly the intricacies of how the brain turns experiences into consciousness, we don't know that, and that's okay. That's okay.
That's okay.
We don't need to pretend that it's psychic powers and bullshit like that.
Hey, but how cool would it be if it was?
It would be cool.
I mean, come on. That's the attraction, right?
Exactly.
How cool would it fucking be if I actually had a fucking lightsaber?
Oh, I want one too.
Somebody actually did make one. Dude, we could talk for hours. You and me, Ben. I gotta let you go. I
gotta go.
A hard fucking deadline.
Thanks for having me on. We'll do it again sometime.
You jump out. I'm just gonna kind of continue on the discussion with chat. And,
all right, man.
Thanks for being here, man. Good discussion.
Ciao.
Bigfoot's not fucking real. Boy, nobody saw that coming. What's up, guys? I don't know, man. Good talk. Good talk with Ben. There were so many more things I wanted to pick his brain about and discuss with him. So many more things. But he, he was on a legitimate hard deadline. Oh, come here, Pete. Come on, man. Hey, Pete wants to. Maybe I want a podcast, man. Talking dog kind of shit. That's magical, right? I don't know. I should probably just wrap it up. Wrap it up. Let it go. That was the show. Me and Ben. Not shit I used to do years ago. Do some shit like that, and then carry it on for 3 fucking hours. And it's what's the point? Nobody wants to watch a fucking 4-hour podcast, right? So I think I'll just wrap it up. Yeah, I'm feeling good about that discussion. And so I'll say this. It's a good discussion to build off of. These points are real. Just like Ben said, he said as he wrapped it up, man, Ben was saying, hey man, I'm not here to kill the music at the party. It's not my goal. It's just that we need better evidence. We need better discussions. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying that, but oh my God, dude, the Bigfoot world just like rears back at like just those two simple statements. We need better evidence. We need better discussions. It kind of shows you that, again, the narrative is false. That much is absolutely 100% true. And I mean, I could prove that from here to the ends of the flat fucking earth we live on. Because the narrative is false. So what the hell is this actual phenomena that does happen? What is it about? How do we get evidence? How do we do better? Those are the discussions that need to be had, not anything else. Nothing else. Like, oh, Todd Standing's a hoaxer. Okay, great. How does that move the ball down the field? It doesn't. Okay, people don't want to fucking follow Todd and fucking think he, go along with his narrative. Fine. Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't move the ball down the field. Debunking Todd Standing, which I could do if I went up there, I could debunk this guy. I'm not going to do that. Zero interest. Too much, costs too much money. So who cares if Todd Standing is debunked? How about the fucking narrative? Let's talk about the narrative. And so it was a good talk with Ben. And I'm gonna calm the fuck down. I'm not gonna get on a high horse. I'm gonna actually end the stream and say, let's just talk about the narrative. Who's willing to have that discussion? Like who? Who amongst you watching this video right now, or you wonderful, wonderful future people, you people from the future, you watch my show. Like, who wants to actually have a real discussion about how the narrative is entirely false? And some you wouldn't expect are more guilty of it than others, And maybe so. Me and Jeff have competing ideas on that. Of course, I've never said that Jeff's idea is a bad one, because it's not. I like the mosquito collection idea very much, because you know why? Doesn't involve Bigfooters. even though it involves Jeff, I know Jeff well enough to trust him to be an objective person to actually get this done in a way that is objective. So that means professionals will collect the evidence, they'll examine the evidence, and no fucking goddamn Bigfooter is ever involved along the way. That's legit. So I do love Jeff's idea. And so it should be that this person has this idea and that person has that idea. And I have my ideas, It should be that way. But it's not. It's not that way. It's never been that way. It's never been consolidated to, hey, these different people with different ideas and ways of doing it. Oh yeah, that's how you conduct science. Look it up. Look up the scientific method. Look up how science works. Look up how peer-reviewed papers work. It's at least similar to go, oh, we have these different ideas for new techniques to discover Bigfoot. It's no different. I mean, it is science. That is how science works. Cool, Jeff. You do your mosquito thing. I'm going to do the drone thing. And this other person is going to do whatever. Like, look for poop. Look for poop. Whatever, man. That's how science works. And fucking none of us are scientists. You know, Meldrum's a scientist. But Meldrum's all we got. And I'm sorry, that's not good enough. It can't just be one fucking dude. One 10-year professor. It can't just be that, dude. There's got to be 20 of those fucking people. Citizen scientists. Fuck that, Mike. Ugh. No. Like, I mean, it could be, but I mean, so far, where's that gotten us? You know? Who's the best? All right. I'm going to ask this question and I'm going to see what chat has to say. In the entire history of Bigfoot, who was the best citizen scientist ever? And I mean ever. Air quotes and everything, Mike. I have no prize to give away. Your prize is recognition. Who the hell was the best citizen scientist ever in the entire modern day history of Bigfoot? Can anybody answer that question? Because I know the answer. And no, it's not me. I'm not playing a joke. I'm not trying to say it's me. Who was the best citizen scientist ever in the history of Bigfoot? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the smartest person in the room to answer the question. No, I'm talking about an individual, one person. Nope. Again, who was the best citizen scientist ever in Bigfoot? One person. Not a group. Not a classification, but an actual person who was the best, possibly the best citizen scientist ever in Bigfoot. And no, I'm not answering. I'm not giving clues. You either know it or you don't. Like, you can like say it or you're not. You know, you can take a stab at it. I'm not gonna make fun of you if you like. Okay, so Igor Burseff, Grover Clance. Nope. Come on, man. Okay, you're in the ballpark, like sorta. Mike's in the ballpark the most here. Asking that question. So okay, I'll give a little clue. No, they're not alive anymore. Like, who brought the most Bigfoot science to the table as a citizen? Not a. No, dude, you guys are just you're all around the fucking ring here, man. Hit the bullseye. Like, no. Who brought the most Bigfoot evidence to the table as a citizen? Who? What person did that? Possibly. Like, I can't say that, like, that's even 100%. But come on, this is starting to become pretty fucking obvious, right? Who brought the best fucking evidence we have? That's an easy question. Come on. I can hear keyboards fucking flying, but I'm not seeing the answer. Who brought the best evidence that there is for Bigfoot? He was a citizen scientist. Like, he was truly looking. He was truly trying to get more information. He was truly invested. Whatever, man. Like, he was trying to make the world a more understandable place as far as Bigfoot went. So who brought the God damn it, not John Green. Like, oh my God, you guys are still okay. No one, fine. Bam, bam, bam. There you go. Roger Patterson was the greatest citizen scientist that has ever existed in the Bigfoot world, as far as I'm concerned, because all these other names that were mentioned, while respectable, didn't bring shit. At least Roger fucking filmed one or hoaxed one. We still don't know, and we'll never know. There's we might know. There's one man that could fucking change all that. His name's Bob Gimlin. Bob Gimlin could change all that. Yeah, I mean, there's some delay here. Yes, it could. The PG film could be a hoax. I don't see it. Like, I'm sorry. And like, God, that was something I wanted to get into with Ben tonight, man. I just, I had 1 hour. But I could talk with Ben about the PG film and go, I don't know, dude. I've looked at it 1,000 times. Objectively, I don't see a guy in a suit. And that's my opinion. That's my objective opinion. And you guys know me, man. Like, I'm going to be objective. But like, I just don't see a guy in a suit. I see some big ass fucking thing walking through the woods that, like, doesn't make any fucking sense to me, man. Like, yeah, I don't though. Like, I'm very dismissive of the Freeman stuff. So you know me, man. I don't do this stupid thing, man, where I put Freeman up there with Roger and Bob. I don't care about the Freeman footage. It means nothing to me. It's so incredibly inconclusive that it's completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. The PG film is not irrelevant, even though I want it to go away. But boob talk with Pat. So I'm starting a new channel called Boob Talk. I think my first episode will be Patty's boobs. Just saying. I mean, I like talking about Bigfoot and stuff, but yeah, I did, Mike. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I don't. It didn't necessarily come from the Patty castings, but yeah, me and Matt Crowley talked about dermal ridges, because he had spent some time sorting that out as a non-Bigfooter. By the way, non-Bigfooter. So he was kind of being objective, just literally trying to figure it out. And he came to the conclusion that dermal ridges can be like uh e- it say faked, but misidentified in two different ways. I don't know, man. Dude, I'm pretty sure I can. Pretty sure I can. Just saying. Like, I'm not trying to be all fucking MK Davis here with the fucking up close and personal shit, but I'm like, I, I, I see them. But then again, man, like, you know, boob talk is a different channel. It doesn't happen here. We don't talk, we don't talk about boobs. Um, yeah, man. Again, good point. I mean, it's pretty fucking obvious. And especially, I mean, well, hell, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, It's like, yeah, it's kind of what it should look like, you know? Uh, and it does. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, man, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at in that film. To me, it doesn't look like a fucking dude in a suit, but it could be. Like, I'll always leave that possibility open. You know, but it doesn't look like that. And so here's the thing. I look at that film and I go, "What the fuck is that?" And we all call it Bigfoot, because they're big and they have big feet. But what is it? And my answer to that is, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck it is. You know, if it's some kind of undiscovered primate, well, like it, it's nowhere near what the Bigfoot narrative says it is. There's no fucking way it's anything that Bigfooters are ever around. That much I know. If it's an undiscovered primate, if it's some kind of magical being from planet Hairtron, then whatever. I guess anything goes, you know. But I say to you this, Bigfoot world, pick one. Pick one, because those two ideas are polarized, north and south. Undiscovered primate, sticking to those guns, or you know, uh, magical being from planet Hairtron. Uh, fucking pick one. Just pick one. Um, and I'm cool with that. Um, there's really nothing in between. And if you think there is, and you think you can make some kind of legitimate, persuasive, articulate argument that there's something in between those two things, come make it. Hit me up. primateobjective@gmail.com. Like Pat Turner on Facebook. Like, hit me up, man. If you want to make that argument that it's something in between, I'd love to hear like how you sort that out, like how much persuasion there is to what you're saying. But in the meantime, people will still go out in the woods with Bigfoot on the brain and have Bigfoot on the brain experiences and all that good stuff. So I'm going to wrap it up. I don't know. I really have to. It's not like I don't make a lot of money from YouTube or anything, but it just sucks to get demonetized. It's like, oh man, I spent fucking 2 hours of my life. Like, I mean, even if I make 50 cents off that, like it's some kind of sweat equity. So I don't know. I got to figure out the endings. Anyway, so I will just go with what's safe. Which I think is like the same shit I've been playing pretty much every time. Thanks for being here, guys and gals. We can keep this conversation going. Like, look at this entire show is a launching pad for a better and bigger and more honest conversation where the narrative is not so protected, where true debate could be had. It's funny. There's irony, to my thumbnail with Ben, and then the conversation we had. I was almost pulling him in directions that he doesn't necessarily go in, like the debate is I'm more of a fucking skeptic than you, bro. Just because I swim these waters so deep. And I know Ben has a love for pop culture, Bigfoot stuff. And he's definitely swam the waters. I'm not taking that away from him. I swim them very intimately. And I make my cases in my own way. Nobody can ever take that away from me. But they'd be what? What? Man, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Locke's like stream on, dude. Like, well, if I had somebody to fucking bounce off of, I don't want to turn my cool conversation with Ben into like a 4 fucking hour stream. So I'll jump off and I'll come back on in half an hour. If you guys want to fucking talk, that's fine. In the meantime, I'm going to wrap it up and not ruin my cool stream I had with Ben, because I decided to like get into this gear, So
let's assume that you've got to this point in the video and you don't agree with me at all. Fine, but I guarantee that this video has been beneficial to you. It will, at the very least, have allowed you to compare your own argument to mine, thus giving you an understanding of the opposite view of the argument, and assuming you're being honest with yourself and actually paid attention, it will have strengthened your own line of reasoning in preparation for an intellectually honest counter-argument. Therefore, even if you don't agree with me at all, this video will still have been useful to you, even if it only confirmed what you previously knew. If I get defeated here, if someone comes along with a very good counter-argument that defeats mine properly, then great, we've all learned. And if I'm right, great, we've all learned again. But if we don't have the debate because it's artificially shut down, or people complain so much that it persuades people not to take me seriously, we can't learn. We can't find the truth. So we will live in ignorance of the truth. It is therefore in all our best interests to have a debate about this subject. But if the academics or corporations like YouTube or the central state are not allowing the debate, or somehow find a way to call this offensive and take it down, then we won't learn and we will have a valueless interpretation of